Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know.
Oh yes, hola, bon dia, alegria, Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show. Yes, a live stream this morning because it seemed important to talk to the Portugeezer in a live environment where you can interact with him in his natural environment. And the podcast, of course, and the Portugal Club, where we have a fabulous string, a thread of conversations and reporting about the citizenship changes primarily, but also more generally the immigration upheaval here in Portugal, which is nothing new, of course. It's just come to a head in a particular kind of way and is on the plate of more people who I guess are more closely connected to the community here for sure. So yes, quite the furore, quite the controversy. Tonight at 7:30, I'll be hosting the Expats Portugal webinar, and this evening it's Daniel Reis. If you are a member over at Expats Portugal, you'll remember that Daniel Reis of Reis and Pelicano gave us the heads up on this back in April, and kind of was him and his colleagues fairly dismissive at the time. No, this can't happen, this extension of citizenship. Well, lo and behold, it happened. He's pretty mad about it. He's very measured. I say mad. He sees the unfairness, the unconstitutionality of it. He'll be going through it in a loyally and measured way tonight at 7:30. Go to expatsportugal.com, become a member there, or I think you can sign up for just the webinar if you just want to see that without going the whole hog and becoming a member. But there's lots of benefits of becoming an Expats Portugal premium member, which includes being with me on a Thursday evening on the webinars and the sessions thereafter. Let's not keep the Portugeezer waiting, shall we? Let's give him a nice big round of applause and see what's got his goat. He's proper rattled, he is, and he's walking about in central Portugal, maybe letting off a bit of steam as he's pounding the streets. Let's find out what's going on with the Portugeezer in central Portugal. Oh my word. Hey, let me see those dogs again. Hola.
Bom dia, Gumpers. Bom dia, Gumpers, I should say.
It's the day
the
when
Portuguese
and the Gumpers come together. Lovely to
300 days of bloody sunshine, Munson.
All
What's
right,
going on?
We're not talking about that. We've got a different controversy in our hands.
To be fair, it's a welcome break, to be honest.
Well, yes, okay. Never happy.
I did say I remember last time I complained about the weather. I said you watch in a few weeks we'll be complaining about the heat. So yeah.
It doesn't take me that long. A couple of days of that, and I'm like, okay, enough of this. Right. No, it's great to be here, which is an important point, I think, in the conversation we'll be having this morning. Let's get a sense of perspective and context. However, I'm concerned about you. I know when my boy the Portuguese is a little bit upset because he's posting videos about every 2 hours. you have been extra prolific in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, it was funny because I made a video about 2 weeks ago, especially when the sun started shining. I said, right, I've got to stop with all the politics, and especially when we stopped out. You know, we were doing it was a weekly sort of stream, wasn't it? That was very, and didn't that do? I think after a while, both of us, our heads were just done in, wasn't it? Because to run that show, we had to become kind of news junkies, and I think both of us probably were news junkies. But I don't know about you, but I'm anything but now. So when I'm getting like messages from people telling me what's going on with, I don't know, Trump or Ukraine or something, and I'm really like, not only have I got no clue about that, I'm not interested in it. Do you know what I mean? I'm done. It's the sun's back, and I just want to spend time enjoying myself, and so I'm really, really done with that.
Yeah.
And then so I made a video about that, and it said, you know, how happy I was to be moving away from thinking about politics, and literally within, I think it was the next day or the day after, this news came out about of particular interest to me was the increase in the wait for applications for citizenship from 5 years to 10 years. I mean, all of it was interesting. When you look at it, if you've got empathy for other people, I also feel for people from what are they called? The CIPL countries? Is that how they're described?
CPLP.
But you know, CPLP, the countries who speak Portuguese, because I have some friends who are in that situation as well, who I can maybe speak about later on if we have time. And then
okay. All right,
slightly distracted there.
What's
Very
going on?
attractive young woman. Anyway, but
It's not that episode, okay? This is about.
it's not
Bring
that
your mind
episode,
back. Can I bring your mind back
right?
for a moment? Clearly, you're distracted from the news agenda, and there was an incredible sort of irony, isn't there? And a cosmic humor. As soon as you say we're not interested anymore, you've been brought back square and centre right into domestic news.
I suppose how I could justify it is some of the people who were commenting about politics on the channel did say you should only really talk about things that affect you, and this really does affect me.
Absolutely.
And particularly, for some reason, when I made the video, I kind of paid more attention to the fact that we are actually at the stage where we're thinking about gathering our documents.
Yeah.
Because we're applying in October. We're going to be applying in October. So that really hit hard. But to be honest with you, it's not the main point. And I was speaking to another expat stroke immigrant, whatever you want to call them, yesterday evening about this. But there's a lot of us, we've been facing not only Portuguese people, but even our fellow immigrants saying to us, what's the problem? You could just have residency. What's the problem? What do you actually gain from citizenship? And, apart from just the fact that some of us are all in, we want to be Portuguese. We want to feel Portuguese. So for us, in the same way that Portuguese people kind of have an almost schizophrenic approach to the argument, on one hand, they'll be going, being Portuguese is not just a piece of paper and all this sort of stuff. And then they'll get upset that people can have this piece of paper, and then they don't want immigrants to be here, but then they get angry at people who get the citizenship and then leave, and you know what I mean? So there's a lot of confusion.
No
but
question.
What I want to say is, when I talk about being all in, it's not just an emotional thing. It's not just an intangible thing. We're literally all in. We came here, we showed that we had enough money to get, I can't remember how much money it was to prove, but then we bought a house and we invested that money. So now there's no money. Do you know what I mean? I don't have 30, 40,000 in the bank anymore. So the point is, my kids have been going to school here since they were 11 and 13. Well, yeah, they I'm not distracted now. That's an old man. But,
he's had his attention. That's his lot, isn't it?
That's it. And he was lucky he got that. But yeah. So what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say to people is, for us, let's say if they just, because they've been changing. This isn't the first goalpost change, is it? They changed the the NHR, and they've changed various other things since we've been here.
It's a syndrome. It's a compounding situation, isn't it?
Yeah, because things don't improve, do they? They keep doing these things and nothing changes because they're not really addressing the root problems, right? So what's going to happen is
come back to those, because that's important. Yeah.
Let's say now they change the residency rules now, because also shortly I will have to apply to have my residence permit extended or whatever you do.
Yeah.
And what if they change the rules now and say, okay, you got to have 50 grand in the bank. You got to have B2 Portuguese. You got to prove that you're employing 2 Portuguese people, or you know what I mean, whatever random thing they can make up.
Yeah.
And then we're screwed.
Right. What
are we doing? We're back to England. My sons, who are, in my opinion, they've been here since they were 11 and 13. They're culturally Portuguese now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, never mind me. Forget about me. My sons are Portuguese. Do you know what I mean? I know they weren't born here, but I hope Portuguese people could at least accept. And then also, my sons are very heavily involved in Portuguese culture. They play in the local orchestra. Christian, as you know, plays chess for Coimbra. I mean, these are kids who are heavily invested in Portuguese culture. They speak fluent Portuguese. From what I understand, they do have an accent, but it's very mild. You know what I mean? They're very Portuguese, and they're just becoming collateral damage. So what I'm talking about is security as well.
Yep.
So as well as wanting to be all in and belong, and you know, Carl, I've spoken on the channel. I know it would be a symbolic gesture, but I've said this and I mean it. As soon as I get the Portuguese passport, I intend to cut my British passport up and throw it in the bin. And I know it's a symbolic gesture, but I will do it. I will do it on camera because we're all in. And that's what I'm trying to say. And it's not just me. There's many of us. I know we're all in. We're all in on Portugal,
Well, I get
So
it.
that,
Yeah, we definitely get the sense of intensity and connection. And yes, all in is the big phrase of the morning from you. And we can see, can't we? I mean, all of this is happening in a very short space of time. Your recent and prolific production of videos. If I go back to just 6 days ago, the truth about the citizenship backlog in Portugal. That was first when you first kind of was on the you came off the back burner and center stage, and then I think that's when it became a little bit more emotional when it was going to the Parliament, which was last Friday, to be rubber stamped. Everybody thought, but it's been put into the long grass again. And we're in one of these awful situations, aren't we, where it's not clear. So it was bad enough what everybody thought was going to happen, but then it became more confused again. And these are the two steps that are often happening, aren't they? It's like going up to a climax of disappointment, if that's not a contradiction, but then not getting there because there isn't any clarity. So it's going around in that circle. And there are so many eddies and spirals of where immigrants are at in Portugal already. It's not like that happened in a very clear and clean and efficient picture of bureaucracy, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, sometimes even when the news is bad, it's better to have it clearly, isn't it? I know what you mean.
Rip the elastoplast off. You know where you stand, and we don't, do we?
And at the moment, we almost feel like we've been given a sliver of hope, don't we? So me and if you remember, crypto strategist, who I kind of also know in real life. He and I, he can be a little bit salty on Portugal sometimes, but to be honest with you, he is a nice guy. But he and I together, we wrote some letters to the committee. So, it's gone to this committee, and I think there's 30 something members on the committee, and we wrote a letter to each one of them outlining our case.
And they're accessible, are they?
Well, nearly all of them had an email. I think there was only 3 or 4 that didn't have an email. So everyone got an email, and then we got back something like 5 or 6 automated responses. Yeah. But interestingly, we got one individual response, each from the same member. I don't want to mention her name because I feel she didn't say it was sort of an embargoed information, but I feel like just out of respect for her and how controversial, but she was actually reasonably positive. Now, assuming she read my email properly, where I mentioned that October 2020 was when our residency started. Now, assuming she read that properly, she seemed to be saying that it looks as though they're not going to be able to make it retroactive, and that actually my case at least should be no problem. So that was some slight sliver of good news, I thought.
And you feel like your case is being championed potentially in the most powerful circles of influence in this country?
I hope so. I'm, if I may say so myself, there's plenty of things in the world that I'm not good at, but I am pretty good at writing. And I wrote first of all, I sort of wrote about myself, but then I paid particular attention to the situation with my sons. And then I also brought up the situation of my friend Lucy, who's a Brazilian woman who, like nearly every Brazilian woman I've met, not that I've met like loads of anyway. they always seem to be old-aged care workers. Yeah, and it really struck me, and I feel it's quite interesting for me to feel myself being on this side of the argument in a way, because it's possibly made me feel like I've been less than empathetic in the past. So this has been a little bit of a journey of self-discovery for me, if I'm being honest. And I invite anyone who's perhaps been on the maybe a more anti-immigrant way of thinking to perhaps reflect a bit, because I met her, and it's quite interesting. So she first came to Portugal, she was undocumented like so many, and then she got her documents, and since then she's been paying taxes, and in Brazil she was a pharmacist. So this, it's an old story, isn't it? She was a pharmacist. Portugal wouldn't recognize her qualifications, so she's been working 7 days a week, nights, she never has weekends off, caring for aged people and, you know, wiping their bums and spoon feeding them and, you know, all this sort of stuff she does, all Portuguese elderly people, because no Portuguese people will do this job, right? It's very low pay. So this is what she's been doing for years. And she said, so she also was just about to apply. She was in the same boat as me. She was just about to apply for the citizenship to get her security. She's been learning, practicing her like European Portuguese. She's studying for a pharmacy degree. So she basically had to re-study again the whole degree. And then suddenly she's scared. She's saying to me, because she lives in Lisbon, she's actually seeing people are being very vocally anti-Brazilian. So
Right.
are you leaving now? Are you going to leave now? And all this sort of stuff. And she's like, I can't believe it. I've literally been caring for these people's grandparents for years.
Yeah.
I've done everything. And that was our argument. We did everything that you asked us, you know. So even if you disagree, this is what I say to Portuguese people, even if you disagree with the policy, and I respect it, if it's the will of the Portuguese people to increase that time limit to 10 years, I respect that. But you can't make it retroactive. That's the thing, because we did everything you asked. We, you know, I got the A2 certificate. I didn't commit any crimes, you know. I didn't leave the country for 12 months, so I was limited on my movements. I stayed put for all that time. I didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I did it. I did all the things, you know. I've promoted Portuguese business on my channel. I've encouraged people to shop Portuguese. I walk the talk, talk the walk, walk the talk. You know what I mean? I do the thing. I do the thing.
Yeah.
And so it feels like a real slap in the face. That's the problem, you know.
Yes.
And then the other thing, just one final note I've said to everyone, where everybody knows about this 700,000 people backlog, but what I think a lot of people don't realize is what that means practically is that it's really a 9-year wait for the passport. So at the moment, they're up to 2001. So anyone like me who's applying in October, I've still got 4 years to go. So it's a 9-year wait. It's not a 5-year wait. And you know, even if they increase it to 10 years, and it probably will reduce that list somewhat. But let's say it cut it in half, then that's going to be a 12-year wait, isn't it, or a 12.5-year wait? So I think people are being kind of lied to in a way. It's like 5 years. Wow, only 5 years. It's not really like that. 5 years till you can apply. Yeah. So that's the other point.
Ever since I've been aware of the citizenship situations, it's taken at least 2 years to get processed, and that's not getting any faster at the moment, is it?
No. Well, apparently it's 4 years, right? As it stands right now, it's 4 years because they're on the year is 2001. You do always hear of a few people who seem to get through a bit quicker. Maybe if they had a good lawyer, I don't know. But
that shouldn't be happening. But yeah, we do hear of these things. Sarah's here this morning. Yes, we are doing it this morning, me and Tony. We're now all in as well. An interesting phrase that you've used is being picked up and run with by Sarah here and Team Yerman. Sold the place in Georgia, building a house here. Yeah, this is the extent people are going to, isn't it, to have their life faced with this new situation, the shifting sands. Yesterday, a politician showed up for a picture at the soup kitchen. We get the picture where I work. So you're involved in a soup kitchen locally as well. Made sure she knew we spoke Portuguese. Isn't it amazing the amount of, I suppose, personal lobbying that Sarah's doing to put the case? She's hoping for better treatment, you might say. Didn't know that. So after 5 years, the waiting list currently, that's about right, isn't it? Anything from 2 to 4, it has to be said, right? Tony? Yeah. To you, Pickle Praggins, this morning, right? You mentioned earlier on, it's not even addressing the root of the problem. There's a couple of things I want from you before you go. What is the real problem, and how could it be dealt with? And what do you intend to do with the plight you're facing, and have articulated very well this morning? So we'll come back to that sort of positive and practical end note. But what do you think the real problem is, and why is this such a ham-fisted way of dealing with it?
Well, I think the real problem is, I'm going to get away from politicians who are being populist and try to stir up division to try and come up with easy solutions. I'm just going to have to walk quickly and close this park gate. Oh, Bessie, don't run out that gate. Don't do it, girl.
Bessie, come here.
So I'm just looking at how big the bars are on the gate. Bessie, come. Yeah. So I think the main problem is that Portugal is hemorrhaging people. So I think that they need people to prop up the bad economic situation, don't they? So they need people like my friend Lucy, the Brazilian, to take care of Portugal's ever-increasing elder population.
Absolutely.
So that's a big part of it. So for me, part of the solution is that they should put measures in to stop young people feeling that they have to leave. So better job opportunities. You know, the price of housing keeps going up. People are going to get angry when I say this, but I think solutions are really simple. Slap more capital gains tax on it. You know what I mean? There's lots of ways to manage their housing situation. Don't allow non-residents to buy houses. Build more houses.
Yeah.
Decentralize. Encourage. Give companies incentives to open up in rural areas. You know, so revitalize the rural areas, because people say that housing is too expensive in Portugal. Well, it's too expensive in urban centres and near the beach, right? But to be honest with you, if you come to the centre of Portugal, houses here are still cheap. You know, people can still buy houses. It's just like, this isn't a Portuguese problem, Carl. That's what I'm saying. If you push everyone into the cities, then house prices are going to go up. That's just what happens. That's the same in England. That's the same everywhere.
It's a modernity problem, a globalization problem.
And it's a problem that doesn't need to happen. It's the solution is very easy. And then I think another thing, just to say, you know, when people talk about people coming to Portugal for economic reasons, kind of the I don't know if paradox is the right word. The irony, the irony of the thing. What I would say to Portuguese people is, when you're complaining about, so I'm talking more about economic immigrants. So, and they're usually from, say, Brazil or Colombia or places like that, who are coming to Portugal for a better life in that way. The irony of the thing is, who are they replacing? Have a think about who they're replacing, because they are replacing Portuguese people who are going to France, Belgium, Luxembourg, Spain, Germany, and England to do exactly the same thing. Yeah. That's what you young people and people of working age are doing. They're going to other countries and stealing their jobs and pushing their house prices up. Okay, so you know, this is the irony of the thing. So I think what we need to do is think of how to solve that problem. And I could say, as a parent of two sons who are very likely to, so I'm just laughing. I'm trying to imagine either of them in the job market, but anyway, that's another story. But they're probably about to enter the job market in the next, you know, several years, and I worry for them.
Which is also changing, isn't it, for other reasons? Yeah. Well, of course, you would, as a loving and responsible father, you would be having those sorts of concerns. So what we're looking at then, as far as I understand what you're saying, and I have some sympathy with it, is that we're facing a sort of global modern problem. And but we're looking at the Portuguese flavor of that, obviously, because that's where we are. What do you and I do hear you, but the problem we've got, I suppose, is a lot of this comes back to the politicians and the way politics works. Because and that's the problem, to me. You know, a couple of things. One is you did mention a few times Portuguese people are saying this and that to you, and you've felt a bit of heat on your channel. Give me a sense of that, because I don't get that it's a general. I know that the heat is being turned underneath us all, or the water level in the aquarium is dropping, so the fish start eating each other. Excuse me. Give me a sense of that temperature of how you're being treated and responded and reacted to on your channel, the Portuguese voice, if you like. What's that like at the moment?
Well, the truth of the thing is, obviously, it's a bit like the squeak. Is it the squeakiest wheel gets the oil, or something like that? So it tends to be that those sort of more obnoxious voices get heard loudest, and I can tell. Obviously, a lot of people haven't, let's say, watched the video, because they'll make comments that prove to me they haven't watched the video, because my argument has never been, I don't agree with, I do think that increasing the time to 10 years is a bad idea. And I have reasons for that. But I also agree that it's a very short period of time, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
And I would think off the top of my head that 7 or 8 years seems more appropriate and more sort of in line generally with sort of the world average, I think. But I mean, that's kind of another question. But the point is, the videos I've been making haven't really been about whether I think that's right or wrong. And in fact, as I've stated very clearly in all the videos, if that's the will, if that's genuinely the will of the Portuguese people, who I respect, they're intelligent people, it's a democracy, then that's fine. My argument has been against the retroactivity of it. So I think if you're going to extend it by 5 years, then there should be a 5-year transitional period. So if 5 years so you can't have it both ways. 5 years is either a long time or a short time. You understand my point?
Yes.
So if it's too short, if it's only very short, then what's a 5-year transitional period? But that for me would be fair. If you're going to increase it by 5 years, there should be a 5-year transitional period, so that people like myself and all the others who've done everything that's asked, and like myself, because we thought that we would be able to, because we have to project forward and plan. So we've taken the risk, haven't we? We've moved our families here, we've put them into school, we've bought property, we've started businesses here. And because we took the risk, our security should be, in about 5 years, we'll be able to apply for what is security. And that rug has been pulled out from under us. So that's been my complaint, really. So a lot of the trolling that I see is from people who don't really understand what my argument is. And then on top of that, there's just the normal trolls. But in balance, there's been a lot of normal troll, just shut up, or I'll give you 3 words: Faro, Lisbon, Porto, right? Obviously the airports.
That's a good one. I've not heard that before. So if you don't like it, there's the door, sort of thing.
You know where the airport is. But on balance, there have also been a lot of Portuguese people who either have empathized or at the very least agreed with me about the transitional period idea.
I think there's a sense of fair play in this country, isn't there? That people do not like unfairness. Well, generally speaking, humans don't like unfairness. So that makes sense. So practically then, when you seemed pretty angry about it in one of your I think your second video on the subject, you were talking about a lawsuit, class action, let's mobilize, organize. Whether it comes to lawsuits or not, I think it's very important that in some way the foreigners do organize and mobilize themselves. That's not happening as far as I can see yet. I think that would be a very good idea. Representation. I mean, that's a major problem for the Portuguese themselves. They're not represented in their politics. That's a problem all over the world. So you could argue, what chance do foreigners stand in being represented? If they do organize, but organize, I think they should. What are you doing? Was that like anger from the other day, or do you think you will be taking it to the courtroom?
I would do it. I think there's a good case for compensation, especially if it came to pass that did result in people. Look, I think that if, for example, the residency rules changed and people started to, it's not, you know what I mean? It's not an inexpensive process to have to relocate, is it? And so I think if people did find themselves in a position where they have to sell their homes, I could see a policy like this having a negative impact on house prices, which obviously, depending on your situation, if you're looking to buy a home, that's great. But if you're suddenly finding that you're having to relocate, I mean, it's just a nightmare. It's just a nightmare. And I would argue that there should be some compensation for that, considering that a lot of people, well, I still have my funnily enough, I looked at my computer and I still have my pros and cons list that I made about which EU country I was going to. And I was saying to someone, obviously, I'm very, very glad, and no offense to Spanish people, we were in Spain when we decided to move to Portugal, and I'm very, very glad in retrospect that we made the move. But Portugal only just beat Spain on my pros and cons list, and I could argue that it was the length of time until I could apply for citizenship that tipped the balance there. We were already in Spain. We already had an apartment in Spain. I already have my residence. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I could have just stayed in Spain, you know, yeah, I mean, I'm glad I didn't, but the point is that that's what I mean about all in. We gambled everything. Do you know what I mean? We made that big move.
Yes.
We bought property here. When we employ labor or anything on our house or our land, we always, you know what I mean? We do all the things
Yeah,
right,
no,
I think.
I think you're a model resident, a bit of a gobby one, but you know that's just what you and I do, isn't it? We are here. We love being here, and we love to speak about it. And sometimes getting your head above the parapet does attract a certain kind of attention. Well, I'll definitely wish you luck in that. And we didn't. I guess we'll talk again. Yeah, you mentioned, I think, before we even started, you know, I'm a little bit more reticent to get too worked up about it. And you know, for me, I'm okay with long-term permanent residency, but that's not to say everybody should be like that or do that. I do. And when you were telling the story of your Brazilian friend, when you begin to hear human impact, that's when it turns from a sort of technical, theoretical thing into this is the upheaval people are facing, and hundreds of thousands of people are facing as a result of this uncertainty. Right? That's the worst part of it.
And I think I also want to say this even goes a little bit further, and it also made me think again. Sometimes as men, because I was going to say to people like yourself, and fair play to you that it doesn't worry you. But what I would like to say to other British people, for example, is to try and have some empathy that there are some people who feel in danger, and that now they don't feel secure anymore because they're all in. So just to not, because I've seen people like you didn't do this, but some people have been they've had that kind of smugma about them. It's like, oh, what are you worried about? It's not going to make any difference to you to be a citizen. It's like just try and be aware that people do have very solid reasons for worrying about their security. Absolutely. And then the other thing I just want to quickly say is, as men as well, is please try and have some empathy for our sisters. So I'm thinking of my Brazilian friend Lucy, who's actually scared. So she's told me now she's living in fear. So for like her physical safety, because she has a feeling. Do you know what I mean? So like probably as men we don't have that so much, but I just would like maybe my brothers just to consider that extra layer to it. That there's a lot of women who are now feeling fearful. I mean, even though for them it's only maybe 2 years more, that's not what she's fearing. She's fearing this sudden kind of wave of hostility. Whether it's
I get you. I hear you.
It doesn't matter whether it's you know what I mean. So just
you know what, I think that's why it's important to have these conversations as well, because where there are sort of immediate and emotional reactions that lead to that sort of lack of thoughtfulness and aggression from people, to have the conversation so that people can begin to consider different points of view and tell the human side of these stories is really important. So I think it's important that we must continue to do that. Mel saying, I'm pretty stuck with this too. Literally went to hand in my application on Thursday. Presumably this is for citizenship, after being told on Monday I could, and have been told they're not accepting IRN. So it's like, now, not the power of now here. The how being told no sucks when you had a certain kind of expectation there. And yes, Mel too, to a small degree, I'm feeling the hostility too. And it is a psychological matter, isn't it? It's like, it's coming closer to home. I suppose that's it, isn't it? And hearing what's going on for people. When you and I were first talking about the Trump's election victory in the United States, we were kind of laughing and joking. There was a level of comedy about that, wasn't there? And then when we began to understand the grief of that and the actual existential threat people felt about it, we changed our tune a little bit. And it's happening here now, isn't it? It seems to be happening right here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, when I had that conversation with it's not the first time I've had a little bit of a kind of an epiphany about male privilege, and I know people hate that. I don't think anyone's going to accuse me of being like a woke guy, right? But I mean, I remember years ago having a conversation in Hong Kong with my friend there who was a woman, and she was saying about how dangerous Shenzhen is. Shenzhen being the big city just across the border from Hong Kong. And I said, well, I've been there loads of times and I've never felt unsafe. And then she just looked at me, and it was like telepathy. And I went, that was such a stupid thing to say to a woman, right?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Fair play to you. See, but how else do you get educated, if you like, or more aware without having respectful conversations with people? And that's you and I are trying to do that. That's for sure.
Yeah. So speaking to Lucy about, and that was what really came through from her, was not so much the imposition of an extra 2 years, but it was just the feeling of, I've done, that feeling, I've done everything. I'm working so hard.
Yeah.
I'm looking after your old people. What more do you want? What more do you want? And now I'm scared. And I was almost, I've got to be honest with you guys, I was almost crying listening to her.
Yes.
It was like, and even when I wrote it in my email to the commission, I think I used the phrases, "What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing to these people?
Yes, right.
What are you doing? Where is your empathy?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was just devastating to hear her. It's genuine. It's a genuine feeling for her. She's on the other side of the world. Her mum, her brothers and sisters are still in Brazil.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And sometimes there's empathy, like we all know what it is, but sometimes you got to kind of close your eyes and try to put yourself in someone else's shoes. And then when you do that, and that feeling comes over you, that's when you've really done that. And it's very difficult then to not feel it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And this that's what I'm saying. It's very important that there is a awareness raising, if you like, and the conversations are being had to make this. Well, it is a human situation, but to highlight and showcase that this isn't just numbers. This is not just sort of political game, which for politicians it is, isn't it? When they're talking about us and our lives and other people's lives, it's numbers, isn't it? They're not getting a direct sense of it necessarily, unless they've got a lot of empathy and they're not psychopathic and they're dealing with constituents on a daily basis facing these problems. I suspect a lot of them aren't like that, so they need to hear what it's like from real people in the situation that you described there. And like this, Mel saying, I've been angrily, verbally attacked many times for not speaking Portuguese well enough. I wonder whether the men here have been. Not so much, Mel. That isn't my experience, but I don't deny yours, and I can see how horrible that might be. Do they dare do this to the men? What's your experience of that, Tony?
About being verbally abused for not speaking Portuguese?
Yes. Have you ever had that?
I haven't, but I mean, I've had a more mundane sort of experience. Just for example, the other day I had to go into Mayo, is that how to pronounce it? Because I bought a laptop from them and it's still under warranty. The other day it wouldn't start. So I went in and I was speaking Portuguese to behind the counter to explain that it's still under warranty. And it's difficult. I think a lot of people, I mean, I'm a language teacher. People say, "Oh, you should be fluent after 5 years." It's like, really? I've been teaching English for 20 years, and I tell you right now, very rare will you find anyone who's close to fluency after 5 years. Right. So I can speak, day-to-day Portuguese, no problem. It's pretty bad, but I can do it. But when she said to me, the way we do it is you have to phone ASUS and go through their tech support. And I said to her, no, you're going to ring ASUS and go through their tech support because it's too difficult. So and she was obviously not happy about that. But I really pushed her, and I said, it's just not acceptable, because I get stuck sometimes on just pressing the buttons, just on the questions to press the buttons. You know what I mean? Because as everyone knows who's learning Portuguese, the final boss is the listening. That's the final boss, right? Yes. The writing is easiest because obviously you're only going to use words you know. Then the second most difficult part is the reading.
Yes.
And then the next easiest part is the speaking, when you start speaking, because again, you only use words you know, right? So you already know the words that you're speaking, but then the final boss is the listening, because they speak very quickly, which is fine,
Yeah.
But that's the difficult part. So anything that's on the phone, especially when you go through those automated thingamajigs, which can be difficult enough in English. So that was something I had the other day where she seemed to be a little bit upset that I couldn't do that. And I just said to her, listen, I can speak Portuguese. You can hear me speaking Portuguese, but do you think this is good enough to get through the automated service? Of course, no.
No, fair enough. I communicate to almost all local shops, departments in Portuguese, never ask them to speak English, only slower. They've got angry at me. I'm sorry to hear that, Mel.
Yeah.
Tony, that's the 9 o'clock church bell, I think. Just a couple more things, and maybe on a lighter note as well. Oh, suffice to say as well this evening, look, I'll be talking to Daniel Reyes, who's really feeling the unfairness as a lawyer, works with a lot of foreigners. It's unconstitutional, it's unfair. He's going to be laying out as he sees it tonight and guiding people with what they can do. Join us at 7:30 over at Expats Portugal for that. Talking about speaking the language, I thought you might like this, Tony. I've never seen this angle on learning Portuguese. Mega class. I don't know this teacher either. This is Susana Pereira. No relation, I'm guessing. Portuguese for drivers. Speak confidently with passengers, mechanics, and security guards. This might be aimed at those TVDE drivers, mightn't it? Even if you're still learning Portuguese. There's got to be swearing in this, isn't there? If you're learning Portuguese for drivers.
A few I hope so.
Yeah, okay.
I hope so, yeah.
Susana Pereira, if you want to learn about Portuguese for drivers. And it leads me to, this is what I was thinking. It's like, are we still in Portugal, Toto? The Portugal we know, love, and we're attracted by, is that still, we haven't talked much about that, the culture, the quality of life. This is quite a shadow that's been cast over that. Maybe we can do that in our next conversation, Tony. But I mean, when you're out of the political spotlight, if you like, or it's not dominating your thoughts, I'm guessing you're still quite happy here in this country.
I'm still very happy. I as I say, not only on a practical level, because we are all in, but still on a spiritual and emotional level, I'm still very committed to Portugal. So, if it takes 14 years to get citizenship, that's how long it's going to take. We're not going anywhere unless we're sort of forced to. Yes. But yeah, on a day-to-day level, I don't feel any sort of vibe different with, my village mates. Is that a word?
Your vizinhos, your neighbours there, right? Yeah.
My vizinhos. Yeah. So it's still very much the same vibe around here. If anything, it's improving a bit because my Portuguese is improving. So that's not a problem. Apart from today, which, as I say, is a little bit of a. Why am I doing that? There we go. Apart from today, which is a little bit of an unusual day, the sun has been shining, and life's good, man. Life's good.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah. We will continue the conversation. We've always been about supporting people, celebrating the upside and helping people practically with any downsides. That's how we've sort of formed ourselves in the pandemic period. So rest assured, we'll do our best to help you. Tony, I'm sure we'll do the same with his community, and our communities overlap and we'll come together. If people do want to reach out to you, Tony, in terms of, I think this organizing and mobilizing as far as really important. How do people reach you if they want to talk to you more about, the possible class action or all the lobbying you're doing?
Well, the Portugeeza at gmail.com is always the best first option. The Portugeeza at gmail.com. So just the same as the name on the YouTube channel. Yes. THEPORTUG. At gmail.com. So that could be your first stop. But I mean, obviously, I hope it won't come to that.
No, we've got better things to do with our lives, haven't we, than that caper?
Of course we have. I mean, what I'm hoping is that it gets watered down. There's a transitional period, and then we can all kind of just move on from it, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope so. But also some structural
more
change.
Fun stuff.
coming back to the problem that you highlighted, structural change that really suits Portuguese people and the Portuguese culture, of which we're becoming a part. We really need that.
Yeah.
So let's hope the politicians can do that. I don't think many people are hopeful about that, but that's also a global problem. Thanks, mate. Apparently, you can refer to your local friends there as the village people. Just finally, which one are you?
Village people.
Are you a construction worker, a Native American? What are you?
Sporty Spice. Was she in the village people? I can't remember.
I would go to that gig if the Spice Girls get together with the village people. That's one hell of a very.
That would be awesome, right?
Go to together there, Tony. Yeah. All right, mate. Thank you so much. Have a great day in Central Portugal.
All right, very good, everybody. Ciao, 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 ciao.
Please give your customary sign off when you finish your videos.
I'm having a blank moment. Refresh my memory. What do I normally say?
You took
every day.
If you're new here, please subscribe.
Oh, that's right. That's right. If you're new around here, please. How can I forget that? Anyway, if you're new around here, please subscribe. Please consider subscribing. It really, really helps me out. And if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Muito obrigado, amigos. Ciao.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need